I'm watching shares of Tesla today. Goldman analyst Mark Delaney weighing in on those big price cuts to the Model Y and Model 3. On the one hand, Delaney sees the price cuts as implying weaker demand. On the other hand, he sees that's a big move to boost volumes. And as the company ramps up its kind of factory supply lines and chains there, it can decrease costs due to economies of scale. Now, these are moves competitors can't match just quite yet.
Uber drivers in Europe, at least, can now rent Tesla and Polestar cars through Hertz. Drivers in London, they will get first dibs on the cars, with Paris and Amsterdam soon to follow here.
Maybe he just didn't know the rules.
That's the background here.
Yeah.
What's really going on is the left wants to bring Musk down. And they see this San Francisco trial as an opportunity to do that. Remember, Musk took over Twitter. Twitter's home city is San Francisco. They hate him in San Francisco. He fired more than half of their employees, and he ended Twitter's left-wing bias. Can he get a fair trial in San Francisco? That's a very good question.
In this video, Tesla stock soars higher as the stock market finally digests Tesla's recent wave of global price cuts. Hertz continues to make moves and grow its fleet of Tesla vehicles. And a few butthurt babies finally have their moment as Elon Musk faces trial over a 2018 tweet. And a heads up to my Patreon supporters, just posted the 277th exclusive video. The subject, testosterone and hormone optimization. Definitely worth watching for the 95% of the audience who identify as having a dick. If you're not a member, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. First, Tesla stock. Now, I've been saying for some time, major disconnect, doesn't make sense. Eventually, the stock market will figure this out and things will probably reverse and do so in a relatively violent fashion. In fact, I think I may have used the term spring-loaded to describe Tesla stock, and that's putting it lightly. Now, I'm not ready to call it yet, but at some point, I'm very confident in 2023, all of this tension built up in Tesla stock is going to relieve itself all over the face of a bunch of short sellers. I think what I'm trying to say is, it could be messy. We see Tesla stock today surging almost 7.5% as the stock market continues to digest the news that Tesla has swung around their gigantic pricing power, slashed prices globally, and continued to stoke the fire of EV adoption. It's kind of strange to me because Tesla could have done this before and they hadn't yet. It's almost as if the stock market was too dumb to figure out that Tesla had pricing power and insane margins, triple the industry average in terms of automotive industry profits. It's almost as if Tesla actually needed to take the action before the stock market figured out that they could take the action of massively slashing prices, completely fucking all the so-called competition, who still aren't even making money selling EVs. Of course, this could be a total coincidence, but I doubt it. Now, for the record, there's been some new announcements of price cuts from Tesla's so-called competition, including companies like XPeng who aren't actually making any money selling electric vehicles in China, and now they're cutting prices to try to compete with Tesla's extremely profitable vehicles post-price cut. Now, I know this is going out on a limb here, but if a company's already losing money on every vehicle sold, and then they cut their prices to try to compete with somebody else, that means they're losing even more money on the vehicles they were already losing more money on. This is not a sustainable business model. The only way to bridge this existential chasm is to somehow go from losing even more money on every vehicle produced to scaling up production to such a high level that you can finally start making a single dollar on every vehicle sold. Then hopefully $2, and then $3, and then $12, and then $24, then $100, then $1,000, then maybe a couple of thousand if you're lucky. But while you're doing that, you know what Tesla's going to be doing? Scaling production, driving costs down and lowering prices. Again, so you understand? By the time you maybe can start, oh yep, guess what? They cut their prices again. Oh, what do we do now? We cut them again, we lose even more money, we go bankrupt. I think the stock market's finally figuring this out. I could have told you. In fact, I have been telling you for the last 3 years, but hey, sometimes the stock market really needs it delivered on a silver platter. And again, I'm not ready to call a bottom here, but I did just want to point out that Tesla stock today, market cap just over $400 billion, does not make sense. And I think at some point soon, the stock market will figure that out. Since bottoming out at the beginning of this year, the first open day of trading in 2023, Tesla stock is now officially up over 20%. And if we look at peak closing price, current price, Tesla stock still, despite that, down almost 70%. I'm just saying. For further context, the last time Tesla was at this price was late August 2020. Not 21, not 22, 2020. Just saying.
Uber drivers in Europe, at least, can now rent Tesla and Polestar cars through Hertz. Drivers in London, they will get first dibs on the cars, with Paris and Amsterdam soon to follow here. This has been awaited for, I'm going to say about 18 months now, as we had really heard some of the ambitions from Hertz to integrate more of the electric vehicles into their fleet and allow people to rent them out. So it seems like it's going to be about 25,000 Tesla vehicles, and that's going to be coming by 2025 through this partnership with Hertz as well.
For the record, with the $50,000 average selling price, that's a little over $1 billion in revenue. I mean, that'd be a lot for just about any business on the planet, but not if you're Tesla. It's barely a drop in the bucket. But this is very indicative of the economic impact of electric vehicles. Hertz knows. I mean, I'm very, very, very impressed with what Hertz are doing at this point in time. From the verge of bankruptcy to 420 IQ chess, Hertz knows the operational cost to maintain a fleet of electric vehicles is about half or even less than half that of ICE vehicles. So it's a no-brainer for them to replace their entire fleet with EVs ASAP. In fact, the cost savings are so incredible, so profound, that Hertz has been buying Tesla vehicles, then partnering with Uber, effectively renting their fleet of vehicles to Uber, who are then leasing them or renting them to Uber drivers. And the Uber pitch to their drivers is an absolute no-brainer. It's like, hey, does your brain work? Yes? Oh, well then listen to this. Would you like to save hundreds of dollars every month in energy costs? The difference between refueling a vehicle, an ICE vehicle, versus recharging an electric vehicle, Tesla in particular with the most efficient powertrain. Would you like to lease a vehicle from us that's brand new, that's safe, and so efficient that the cost savings that you make driving people around as an Uber driver will literally pay for the entire cost of leasing this vehicle from us? Meaning you're literally making money and you've got a free Tesla as a result. Would you like to do that, or are you a moron? This is literally the value proposition right now. And you know what's going to happen when Tesla solves autonomy, right? Hertz will transform almost overnight from a car rental company to a car rental and or robo-taxi company. Hertz is building the single largest fleet of future robo-taxis on Earth. I mean, Tesla doesn't even have their own fleet. They're just out on roads, individually owned. This is going to be insane. You guys understand, right? When Tesla solves autonomy and Hertz can activate the robo-taxis, holy shit. Stay tuned for that.
Really interesting. I've actually ridden in an Uber car that was a Tesla.
Oh, yeah?
Here in New York, yeah. And it was great I'm getting a Tesla. Couldn't believe that I was actually getting a Tesla as an Uber car.
That's awesome. Yeah, surprise to the upside. That's what that is, guys.
Speaking of, just a quick aside, just after Model S deliveries began in Australia, I had the most bizarre experience. I ordered an Uber, and the guy turns up in a fucking brand new Model S. I'm like, huh? What? Why is this guy driving Uber? He can afford a Model S. I don't get it. So we got chatting. The dude tells me he lives very close to his workplace. He fucking loves his Tesla. And he literally started driving Uber just so he could experience driving his Tesla more often, because he didn't need to use it, because his commute from work to his office was literally walking distance. So he needed an excuse to be in the vehicle. He enjoyed the vehicle so much, driving the vehicle and showing people what it could do and blowing their mind so much, that he was going berserk. As soon as he gets home from work every evening, he eats dinner and then goes out and does Uber for hours every night. Couldn't believe the guy. So we got chatting. He's like, hey man, you want to see what it can do? Check this out. Absolutely ridiculous. And we saw there the anchor explaining. You saw the joy on her face, how excited she was to know she was going to get an Uber that was actually a Tesla. There's going to be a lot of other consumers whose first experience ever in a Tesla vehicle will actually be as an Uber customer. Many of these people will eventually convert to Tesla customers themselves. The Uber driver will be talking, hey, why'd you get this Uber? Well, actually, there's this deal. It's pretty cool. Hey, it saved me a lot of money. Oh, it saves you money? Really? Tell me more. Tell me more. I think it's going to be quite a while before Tesla needs to pay for advertising. Let's just leave it there.
I'm watching shares of Tesla today. Goldman analyst Mark Delaney weighing in on those big price cuts to the Model Y and Model 3. On the one hand, Delaney sees the price cuts as implying weaker demand. On the other hand, he sees that's a big move to boost volumes. And as the company ramps up its kind of factory supply lines and chains there, it can decrease costs due to economies of scale. Now, these are moves competitors can't match just quite yet.
Or ever. Why? Because Tesla has an unassailable lead. They're not standing still. They're going to continue to drive their costs down as they scale up more and innovate in manufacturing, scale up battery production, implement their own 4680 cells, delete parts and processes. Even if Tesla stood still for years, it would take literally years for anyone else to catch up to their current products, their current profitability at their current scale. But Tesla isn't sitting on their hands.
Delaney maintained his buy rating on the stock, but cut his price target to 200 from 205, noting a slight hit to EPS and average selling price, but still pretty positive on what they did last week.
Yeah, and if you believe the reports, I mean, again, these cuts we're talking $13,000, which I think the real boost is allowing that $7,500 tax cut on top of it. But the online outlet Electric is reporting record demand and record sales for 1 week in North American sales. So I think that note is largely right.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk is heading to court after a federal judge rejected his request to delay a trial and move it to Texas. Tesla shareholders are suing Musk for potential financial harm caused by a tweet he posted in 2018 about potential potentially taking Tesla private at $420 per share, 420, notice that, but the deal never materialized. Here to react, the host of Varney & Company and American Built on Fox Business, Stuart Varney. Why 420?
Oh, you know why 420 has something to do with marijuana, I believe, right?
Okay, so he's in trouble because these people who are suing him said that his comments impacted their bottom line, and it sounded like he had the backing to take it private. He did not. Maybe he just didn't know the rules.
That's the background here.
Yeah.
What's really going on is the left wants to bring Musk down, and they see this San Francisco trial as an opportunity to do that. Remember, Musk took over Twitter. Twitter's home city is San Francisco. They hate him in San Francisco. He fired more than half of their employees, and he ended Twitter's left-wing bias. Can he get a fair trial in San Francisco? That's a very good question.
That is a fair question. Can Elon Musk get a fair trial in San Francisco, aka Woke Central? Honestly, probably not. But that's where the trial's happening, so is what it is.
He wanted it to move to Texas.
Right.
The judge said, no, we can find some people in San Francisco who don't hate Twitter. Okay, backtrack a little. 2018, Musk goes out there and says, I've got a bid, I've got a takeover offer for Tesla at $420 a share.
Right.
You know, 420 marijuana. The money wasn't there.
Just to be clear, the money was there, at least as far as Elon was aware. He didn't have a signed contract, but he had a lot of discussions with big investment funds, including the Saudi Wealth Fund. There's a lot of contention over this. The deal didn't go through, and there was a lot of pushback from Tesla investors. I mean, I was not happy about the idea of taking Tesla private. I've been investing in the stock. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not going to be able to own this if it goes private. Damn. Thankfully, the deal didn't proceed, but to be clear, Elon has maintained he believed the capital was available, he'd had the conversations, he wasn't doing this to pump up the stock or be a dick, he was thinking out loud about what he might do with Tesla. He's also confirmed that the only reason he settled this deal out of court, there was a huge fine from the Suck Elon's Cock, also known as the Short Seller Enrichment Commission, some of the SEC's best hits, including missing the Bernie Madoff fraud despite having the whole thing handed to them on a silver platter, multiple times, and allowing short sellers to manipulate stock prices every fucking day of the week on CNBS. Like Elon, I have no respect for the SEC, but Elon has confirmed the only reason he settled with the SEC was to avoid Tesla getting killed. Literally. Tesla was still dependent on capital markets to raise capital for its very survival. The settlement deal, Elon didn't admit or deny guilt. The reason that he did this, he said this on the record, was simply because if he didn't, Tesla would die. He had a gun to his head. And in due course, all the details, the actual facts of this will come to light. But I just wanted to put that out there because we hear a lot of narratives that go counter to what Elon himself has said. E.g., there was no money, there was no deal, he was never serious, he wasn't thinking about doing this, it was just to manipulate the stock price. All false.
Deal fell through. Some shareholders felt that they had been hurt, and they are now suing. So they've got to, they're going to court. There's jury selection starts today. Can they get a fair trial? Good question.
That is an excellent question in San Francisco. I get why he would want to move it to Texas.
Sure.
But ultimately, and we're going to find out what his case is in the coming days, but he's probably going to say, look, I thought I had the financing.
He's already paid a $40 million fine to the SEC, and the shareholders are now sitting on a stock that is 6 times more valuable than it was back in 2018 when he made this spurious offer. Why he made that offer, 420, something to do with marijuana, maybe he was stoned, I really don't know. But whatever happens in this trial, whatever happens to Musk, you cannot take away his contribution to free speech through Twitter. You cannot take away his success at Tesla with electric vehicles. And you cannot take away Starlink, which is changing warfare in Ukraine. That is Elon Musk.
I know you're concerned about whether or not he can get a fair trial in San Francisco, and that is fair. But when you think about him, he is a unique American businessman because he is loved by the political right for making Twitter free and fair again. But he is also loved by the political left because of his electric vehicles.
Yes, he's a crazy maker. That's what he is. I think he's the most important and dynamic figure in American business today.
I agree, but I'll also take it a step further. Globally, not just in American business, but global business. Earth's MVP.
I do a 3-hour show about business and politics and money. There's nary a day goes by when we don't have an Elon Musk headline for our viewers.
Sure. And, update us on what's going on at Twitter. Is
That's
he making
very hard
headway?
to say.
Right?
That is very hard to say. He's looking for a new CEO. He's fired all these people. He needs somehow or other to figure out, well, how do you moderate content? Because you've got to moderate it to some degree. By what value system do you moderate it? And how many subscribers have you got? How much are they paying? How much money are you losing? It is a mess. Right. But at the same time, he has destroyed the left-wing bias that used to be at Twitter. Good for him.
He has indeed. Final question. Will this trial be televised?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you. At this point, I do not know.
Because I would love to see his testimony.
If he testifies, you got to see it. Put it on TV.
Okay, serious question. Elon Musk on trial, pay-per-view. Would you do it? I would. By the way, if you guys haven't, I highly, highly recommend. Everything that happens in a court of law, it's a matter of public record. You can search transcripts and hear Elon in previous trials, depositions. He's an absolute fucking savage. Odds are he has the biggest brain in the room by default. It's like watching Einstein have a conversation with a toddler. The dude is ruthless. It's really amusing.
But I'm wondering where the legal issue is here when he's just raising that as a possibility, because didn't he caution or hasten to add, particularly in the Tesla case, it was like one thing he was just throwing out there. You don't have to take me seriously on there, just throwing it out there. Now, obviously, people pounced on that and, bet that was inevitable. But he didn't say it was going to happen. How do you distinguish this?
This is a great question. Elon's tweet. Am thinking about taking Tesla private at $420 per share. Am thinking about. Not am going to, am thinking about. This is transparency. Elon thinking out loud. Expressing his thoughts. Freedom of speech, imagine that. And for the record, Elon was extremely defiant. The SEC, the settlement, some of the conditions, somebody needs to monitor and review all of Elon's tweets. He's asked on 60 Minutes, so Elon, is somebody reading all your tweets? He responds with a wry smirk. Basically, no, I don't give a f***, go f*** yourself, I have free speech, get f***ed. He also went on in that very interview to explain that he has no respect for the SEC, whose job it is to prevent stock market manipulation, which they clearly don't do. Shout out to all the short sellers appearing every f***ing day on CNBS. I relate to Elon in this point. I have zero respect for anyone or anything, any organization who fail to live up to their mission, their stated goal.
Thanks for having me back. The main issue here is it gets to the duty to shareholders question. Elon Musk has a duty to the shareholders. Now, the plaintiffs here have to prove that he violated that duty, that he never intended to take Tesla private, which he claims he did. So it's kind of a he said, she said question. But it also gets to the issue of, are there any real damages here?
No. Well, actually, no, in fairness, there is some damage as it relates to this whole tweet saga. Brain damage from the morons trying to sue Elon Musk because they were harmed because of this tweet. The only people who lost any money on this are short-term gamblers, morons, who were in the stocks casino. They saw a tweet and acted on this tweet, which says, I'm thinking about, not I'm going to, blah, blah, blah. And as the anchor previously pointed out, the stock's up like 6 times since this tweet. The only damage was pre-existing damage to the brain of those morons claiming that Elon Musk somehow financially harmed them with this tweet. If you gamble in the stocks casino, it doesn't work out for you, take your fucking loss and move on. Don't be a little bitch and try and sue somebody because you made a dumb choice and tried to gamble on something. It's that simple. How many people who owned Tesla stock before this tweet was made were damaged financially? Zero. Again, the stock's up like 6 times since the tweet. So exactly what Tesla shareholders were damaged by this tweet? Zero. It's just a fucking money grab and a total waste of Elon's time.
I mean, let's look at the facts. Tesla was a failing company before Elon took over. It's up 400% over 5 years. I mean, if you were to come out and tell me I could give you a 4-to-1 return on investment, that's a heck of a deal. So showing the harm here is also a laughably high bar for these plaintiffs. But nonetheless, I think the expectations are correct that he will likely settle on this due to the fact that he's bringing this before a set of jurors who are already somewhat prejudiced against him because of his actions on Twitter and takeover of Twitter, and likely the statements from the judge. But the bigger deal before us here is not so much the issue before Musk or Twitter or Tesla. It's not really going to impact them that much in the big scheme of things. The big issue is the precedent this sets for all CEOs, that we can start to see activist investors bringing up actions against CEOs, not over what they do in the boardroom, but what they do in the courtroom. And that's a real opportunity and threat matrix that CEOs are going to have to face at publicly traded companies coming up, that an investor can say, when you put profits over green, then you were harming my shareholders, you're harming shareholders. Likewise, you could see it coming from the other directions. If you put green energy above bottom line prices, you could see shareholders bringing suits against that. So this is going to give a big green light to plaintiffs' attorneys and investors who are eager to sue.
Totally agree on this point. Depending on how the case goes, this could give the green light to a bunch of morons who are out for a quick payday, a quick money grab. Could be messy, and I got to say it. There are far too many smart people in the United States working in law. It has got to be one of the, if not the most litigious societies on planet Earth. It's a fucking joke. The fact that this kind of stuff makes it into court in the first place is just laughable. Yet here we are.
It could also, force a lot of CEOs to just shut up, to not tweet about anything, to not throw something out there like in Musk's case back in 2018. I would think about taking Tesla private. Now, the stock had already quadrupled in the span of a couple of years, even back then. So as I think you touched on this made it soar all the more. So these investors caught in that grip, lost a lot of money on paper. So I'm just wondering how this would affect future CEOs or present CEOs who might muse online or in response to a reporter's question. If someone says, would you ever take this company private? He or she better watch what they say, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we of course get the quarterly reports and the annual reports from publicly traded companies. And if you're a CEO, you do have to be careful with what you say. But I also worry simultaneously that this would kind of decrease the transparency that we want from our CEOs. If there is something that they are going to be doing or something they are thinking about, we want that information in a real-time basis. And that seems to be what Elon Musk is getting raked over the coals for doing.
Absolutely spot on. Elon's punishment for transparency, being open, sharing his thoughts, what he was thinking about doing, what he was considering doing, ending up in court. This is not helpful for investors. Will scare other CEOs away from ever sharing their thoughts and opinions or anything they're even considering doing in the future.
So it's going to really chill that type of activity.
Yeah, because he said he was looking into it. And in a lot of these tweets, and I've read a good many of them, so he wasn't saying he was going to do it. So I'm just wondering whether that would be singled out, or whether just the comment in general teased that happening, and that was good enough to hoodwink investors who are now, here in the courthouse suing. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges for him is kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if he had made Tesla private and investors had lost money thinking, oh, he's just thinking about it, then they would likely bring a suit as well. And that's kind of the problem with the overarching system we have in our justice, which is not what the rest of the world has, which is a loser pays model, where if you sue me and you lose, you cover all my legal fees. We actually have the exact opposite, where if you sue me and you lose, well, I'm out my attorney's fees, but simultaneously, if you sue me and you win, I have to pay all your attorney's fees. So we actually have a fundamental issue of tort reform that we should also address simultaneously while we're looking at what's going on with Tesla and how this plays out.
He makes a good point. Now, one final clip discussing some of the ins and outs of the trial.
Right, well, shifting gears, Elon Musk set to face trial today over tweets he made in 2018 regarding the possibility of taking Tesla private. Yahoo Finance's Alexis Keenan is following the story and joins us now for more. Hey, Alexis.
Hi, Rochelle. So this case is happening in Northern California in a district court, a federal court there. And it's slated to kick off at about 11:30 a.m. Eastern time today. And what's going to happen first is jury selection. So we'll be watching for what transpires. Hopefully a jury will be selected and this case will get moving along. Now here, this is a shareholder action. This is Tesla shareholders bringing this action against Elon Musk and the board, originally Tesla's board, alleging billions of dollars in damages over that 2018 now infamous tweet that we have all become so familiar with, where Elon Musk had said that funding was secured to take Tesla private at $420 a share. That was on August 7th of that year. He went on after that to say that investor support is confirmed and that the only reason why the deal was not certain is because it was contingent on a shareholder vote. Now, specifically, the class of plaintiffs here, they're shareholders in Tesla who bought or sold the shares over a 10-day period in 2018, starting on that tweet day 8/7, going to the following week on August 17th. At first, the stock on that post had jumped, but within days, it had dropped from about $25 a share to about $20 a share when no deal materialized there. Now, this case is considered to be somewhat of an uphill battle for Musk, particularly because last year in a preliminary ruling, the district judge in California said said that these statements were both false and reckless, at least part of the statements the judge said. So that's already been held by the judge. That makes it difficult for Musk here. But nonetheless, he has also produced some evidence in the case showing that he was having talks with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. So he is going to be using that expectedly as part of his defense. Still, though, that's not the only case involving this tweet. The SEC also brought a civil action against Musk and Tesla. They settled that matter, each paying $20 million in fines. That Musk is also contesting right now in an appellate court, wanting to undo part of that accord. But we will be watching and listening in the courtroom, and we'll bring you the updates as we have them this afternoon.
And now the cherry on top. It seems that Yahoo Finance have finally figured out that EV adoption is happening, and even better than that, a double dose. Please make sure you're sitting down for the last bit of this clip. General Motors once again declaring out loud in 2023 that they intend, in fact, they're committed to going bankrupt before the end of the decade. Don't miss it.
Now, according to data from LMC Automotive and EVvolumes.com, global EV sales made up roughly 10% of every new car sold around the world in 2022. Now, global sales of fully electric vehicles totaled around 7.8 million units, an increase of 68% from 2021, and it's expected to reach nearly 11 million this year. Right, well, General Motors is revving up its EV offerings. The auto giant has announced its first ever electric Corvette. The E-Ray will be released later this year, starting at a price point of $104,000. Now, the hybrid EV will be the first Corvette to get all-wheel drive.
Wait a minute. It's going to be a hybrid? Are you serious? They can't be serious.
And we'll have a brand new wheel design. This rollout comes as GM works towards its goal of electric-only sales by 2040.
Now, before we get too excited, that was actually false. GM plans to be carbon neutral by 2040. Their much more aggressive plan for fully electric, only electric vehicles sold, no more ICE vehicles, is in fact 2035, so they're still completely fucked. But 5 years earlier than Yahoo just said. Can you imagine? I mean, it's still on their website, by the way. You can go fact check me. It's 2023, and General Motors still intend, keyword intend, because they'll be out of business before this happens, intend on producing and selling internal combustion engine vehicles to consumers as late as December 31st, 2034, more than a decade from now. And as a result of this, there is no question General Motors, unless they get bailed out by the government, again, hence Government Motors, will not be in business by 2035, and it will be entirely their own fault. This is what happens when everyone within a company is either incompetent or unable to share their opinion. So, rest in peace, General Motors. Quick aside, I'm definitely looking forward to watching Tesla stock in the coming days, weeks, and even months. I still maintain Tesla stock is spring-loaded AF, and it is just a matter of time. But over the short term, anything could happen, so I'm not going to make a prediction here. I'm just doubling down. Doesn't make sense, won't last forever. And yes, just for the record, still buying with every spare cent. Lastly, heads up to my Patreon supporters or anyone interested. Today's exclusive Patreon video is about testosterone and hormone optimization. If you remember, check it out, and if you're not, you can join with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. See you over there. Love ya.